in the hope that somebody will come along and say, there's money in this, let's support Meghan and her as ever brand. I thought she behaved so badly, and Harry too.
One with a sharp set of eyes has noticed perhaps a mistruth in the Oprah interview.
The Supreme Court in London has never witnessed anything like this, making the Netflix documentaries and Oprah interviews feel almost trivial in hindsight, as many now look back asking, what on earth happened? With sharp-eyed observers beginning to question possible mistruths in the Oprah interview and the couple's endless complaints about privacy invasions, what unfolded inside courtroom number 7 shattered everything the world thought it knew about Harry and Meghan's fairy tale romance. Chaos erupted the moment legendary investigative journalist Tom Bower stood before the court and uttered 2 explosive names, Trevor Engelson and Operation Cuckoo. Prince Harry sat frozen, his face drained of colour, while Meghan Markle fled the courtroom in tears, her carefully constructed facade collapsing before a global audience. This was no gossip or tabloid speculation, but sworn testimony from a man who has destroyed billionaires and politicians using nothing but irrefutable evidence. And what he revealed about Archie's true parentage threatened to permanently erase a line of succession, devastate the Sussex brand, and plunge the British monarchy into its greatest constitutional crisis in modern history. January 2026 loomed like an execution date, as the sky over London hung heavy with revelation and crowds surged toward the Supreme Court, not for a routine legal dispute, but to witness either the fall of modern royalty or the exposure of the century's most sophisticated deception. Inside the suffocating courtroom, international journalists filled every seat as Bower entered silver-haired, razor-eyed, feared for his surgical precision, his target, no longer a disgraced CEO or corrupt politician, but the very foundation of the royal bloodline itself. In the spectator section, Harry's once defiant gaze was replaced by a hollow emptiness, while Meghan's hands clenched her handbag, so tightly her knuckles turned white, her composure on the brink of collapse. When Bower's deep, devastating voice cut through the silence and spoke of the true bloodline of Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, naming Meghan's forgotten ex-husband alongside the words genetic comparison results, a collective shiver swept the room as the gravity of the moment settled in. This was no longer internet conspiracy territory, but sworn testimony that left the courtroom suspended in stunned, breathless silence. The silence is so intense it becomes terrifying, broken only by audible gasps from the royal legal team as Prince Harry, the man who sacrificed everything, his titles, his safety, and even his relationship with his father and brother to protect his small family, appears hollowed out before the court, his mouth falling open and his eyes widening as if staring into nothing, perhaps watching years of lingering doubts, unexplained absences, rushed timelines, and quiet suspicions suddenly align into one horrifying truth. Meghan's reaction delivers the clearest answer of all. There is no firm denial, no defiant stare, only a complete emotional collapse as tears stream down her face, and she abruptly stands, walking almost running out of the courtroom, leaving stunned security behind as the wooden door slams shut, sounding like the final punctuation mark on a modern Cinderella story. Why would a journalist of Tom Bower's stature choose this precise moment to expose everything? And what could he possibly hold that threatens to shake an entire dynasty to its core? The answer lies in Operation Cuckoo, the file that changes everything. To grasp the weight of this testimony, one must understand the man delivering it. Bower is no blogger spinning theories, but a former lawyer and veteran BBC investigative journalist whose career has been defined by dismantling the untouchable, from billionaire media tycoons to corrupt politicians, all undone by his single cold principle. He never strikes without enough evidence to guarantee total destruction. While his 2022 book shocked the world with revelations about Meghan, what he unveils in this London courtroom goes far further, and under relentless cross-examination from Meghan's elite legal team, he remains eerily calm, asking the clerk to display a detailed timeline of Meghan Markle's life, from 2013 to 2018, a period he labels the record of overlaps. With surgical precision, Bower revisits Meghan's 2013 divorce from film producer Trevor Engelson, dismantling the official narrative of a clean break by presenting hotel records, verified phone logs, and testimony from former staff that suggest the connection never truly ended. The courtroom leans forward as Bower details unexplained gaps in Meghan's schedule between her first meeting with Harry in July 2016 and their public engagement, gaps that align disturbingly with unpublicized trips made by Engelson himself. The air seems to cool further when Bauer reveals his source network, longtime palace servants and gatekeepers who observed events from behind the velvet curtains of Kensington Palace and remained silent for nearly a decade out of loyalty, until the weight of evidence and the chaos surrounding the Sussexes compelled them to speak. These were not rebels or opportunists, but lifelong protectors of royal secrets who broke centuries of protocol because what they witnessed was too significant to bury. Bauer insists the doubts surrounding Archie's paternity are rooted not in malice, but in logic, posing questions that refuse to fade. Why is every detail of Archie's birth cloaked in secrecy? Why did royal doctors break centuries of tradition by refusing to sign the birth certificate? And why was crucial information on that certificate altered months later? Questions that hang in the courtroom, unanswered, heavy, and impossible to ignore. These questions form the very foundation of Bauer's case. Yet his testimony does not stop at exposing Meghan. It indirectly dismantles Harry's judgment itself. Bauer portrays the prince as a man manipulated within a perfectly staged performance, where truths about bloodline were quietly exchanged for vows of eternal love, revealing a tragedy rooted not in malice, but in blind trust. According to Bauer, he possesses internal reports from royal security units tasked with monitoring Meghan's relationships prior to the wedding, documents that allegedly flagged multiple concerns about the lingering presence of figures from her past at the very brink of her entry into the royal family. The power of this testimony lies not in theatrical delivery, but in the calm certainty of a man holding evidence he believes cannot be challenged. Locking eyes with Harry, Bauer delivers words that echo through the courtroom. The truth belongs to no one. It simply exists, and his duty is to bring it out of the cellar where it has been buried. In that moment, London understands this is no longer a family dispute, but a historical reckoning, with Bauer holding the key to a Pandora's box the monarchy has desperately tried to keep sealed. Central to that box is what Bauer calls the Trevor connection, raising the unsettling question of why a Hollywood film producer would matter to the British line of succession. Bauer dismisses the notion of Meghan as a passive victim, instead describing her as a master strategist, and Trevor Engelson not as a forgotten ex, but as the man who knew her longest from struggling actress to global celebrity, understanding her ambitions, habits, and the darker mechanics of her climb in ways Harry perhaps never did. In court, Bauer poses a chilling question. Could a woman so calculated truly sever her lifeline before securing absolute stability on the new island she sought to claim? He presents evidence of unusual communication patterns between 2016 and early 2017, alleging that while Meghan's romance with Harry played out publicly, a concealed channel of contact with Trevor remained active through anonymous emails and encrypted messaging, possibly as a business conduit or a contingency plan. The crux of Bauer's argument, however, lies in what he terms the timeline of genetics, a cold, devastating logic questioning the frantic rush toward marriage, and proposing that a biological reality, discovered in late 2018, forced a decisive choice. If pregnancy occurred while emotional ties remained unresolved, Bauer argues, Meghan faced a stark calculation. Trevor, offering no status or power, versus Harry, the gateway to global influence and security. According to Bauer, the decision was not romantic but strategic, rooted in power rather than love, and if Archie carries Trevor's bloodline rather than Harry's, then his place in the line of succession would represent not scandal, but constitutional fraud. Bauer frames the 2020 departure from royal duties not as an act of liberation driven by racism or privacy concerns, but as a calculated escape to remove the child from institutional scrutiny and the DNA verification that royal protocol would eventually demand. As Harry sits in the courtroom, the man who abandoned his homeland, denounced his family, and believed he was protecting his son, he is confronted with the possibility that he may have been shielding not privacy, but a genetic lie, as Bauer leaves one final, unanswered question hanging heavily in the air. That unanswered question plunged the entire courtroom into a bitter, suffocating silence. Why, when suspicions about Archie's bloodline began quietly circulating within palace walls, did Meghan go to such extraordinary lengths to relocate Harry and the child to California, where strict privacy laws could serve as the ultimate fortress to shield a dangerous secret? The ghost of Trevor Engelson was no longer confined to the past, it was alive in the present, threatening to tear the Sussex future apart, while the palace itself understood why silence had become complicity. Many assume Buckingham Palace is passive in the face of scandal, but according to Tom Bauer, the reality is far more calculated. Under the reign of the late Queen Elizabeth II, whose life was devoted to preserving the sanctity of the crown, bloodline rules were never negotiable. In a revelation that sent audible gasps through the gallery, Bower stated the palace was not naive at all. Immediately after Archie's birth at Portland Hospital in May 2019, while the public celebrated, a discreet genetic testing process was quietly initiated behind palace walls. Officially labelled a routine health check, its true purpose was far more critical to the monarchy's survival. And where are those results now? According to sources linked to Bower's palace gatekeepers, they have never been released, instead sealed away in a special safe deep within the palace wine cellar, accessible only to the highest-ranking members of the royal family. The obvious question follows: why hide it? If the results showed Archie did not carry Windsor blood, why wasn't the truth revealed when it could have been contained? Bower's explanation is ruthless yet political. In 2019, the monarchy was already staggering under the weight of the Prince Andrew scandal, and exposure of a second crisis involving paternity in the direct line of succession would have risked total institutional collapse. Faced with the unthinkable choice between transparency and survival, Charles and William, Bower claims, chose silence to preserve the crown. But that silence, intended as protection, became a weapon, creating what Bower describes as a media monster one Meghan allegedly recognized and exploited. Understanding the palace would never dare expose a truth so catastrophic it could bring the monarchy itself to the brink. From that protected position, the counterattacks against the royal family unfolded with devastating precision through explosive interviews and documentaries. Yet the most harrowing detail in Tom Bower's account concerns Prince Harry himself. Bower portrays him as the greatest casualty of this saga, a man trapped inside what he calls a glass cage of lies fighting the world, severing ties with his own family, and sacrificing everything to defend his wife and children, all without realizing he may have been shielding a genetic fraud he was never informed about. Harry believed every word Meghan told him, embracing the joy of fatherhood while unknowingly becoming a pawn in a calculated power play, and Bower's testimony about the DNA report stands not merely as an accusation, but as a warning about the hollowness behind grand ceremonies and fairy tale myths. If Bower's claims are true, then Archie, seventh in line to the throne, is a stranger to the Windsor bloodline, and when this reality detonated in court in January 2026, it became clear that the palace's long silence had accumulated into a debt so vast it now threatens to burn everything down. In royal and diplomatic worlds, silence is often seen as golden, but following Bower's bombshell testimony, the silence from Montecito no longer feels protective, it feels like an unspoken confession. Cold logic demands scrutiny. Meghan Markle has aggressively sued newspapers over minor privacy breaches, unflattering photos, and even the publication of a private letter. Yet she remains conspicuously silent in the face of an allegation that could obliterate her reputation and her son's future. Why has no immediate defamation lawsuit been filed against Bower? Why has the Sussex office, notoriously hypersensitive to rumour, allowed the names Trevor Engelson and Operation Cuckoo to circulate freely across global media for weeks? The fastest and most decisive way to end the speculation would be a transparent, independently supervised DNA test. A single act capable of silencing every conspiracy forever, yet instead there is retreat, avoidance, and shadow. That absence raises a devastating question. Could it be that such proof cannot be produced because the truth itself does not belong to them? Meghan's legal playbook has always been swift, aggressive, and overwhelming, which makes the current silence all the more deafening because it is so profoundly out of character. And at the center of it all sits Harry, described by close sources as living in near-total isolation at his Montecito villa, a man who surrendered titles, security, family bonds, and national identity to protect what he believed was his family, now forced to confront the possibility that every sacrifice he made was built upon an exquisitely engineered deception, that if Archie does not carry the Windsor bloodline, the consequences reach far beyond wounded pride or public embarrassment. He would not only lose his royal title and his place as seventh in line to the throne, but the very identity he is being raised to believe defines him, resulting in one of the most brutal psychological dislocations imaginable for a child. For Harry, there would be no path back to the royal family, because he would have unknowingly become entangled in a constitutional deception, a role that history would never forgive. As it always does, the truth has found a crack, and Tom Bower has ignited a conflict in which there may be no true winner. If the genetic documents he references are introduced in future legal proceedings, the matter will inevitably spill beyond the courtroom and force parliamentary intervention, transforming a family scandal into a question of national legitimacy. Truth can be buried behind fortified palace walls or shielded by American privacy laws, but history shows it never stays hidden forever. Who, then, holds the final card? Bower with his network of palace insiders, Buckingham Palace with its instinct to protect the monarchy at all costs, or Meghan herself, possibly holding evidence that could either vindicate her entirely or destroy her beyond repair. While the London courtroom session may have ended, its aftershocks are only beginning, with calls already mounting for parliamentary inquiries, constitutional reviews, and a potential re-examination, even rewriting of the line of succession. If Parliament is compelled to act, it would mean subpoenas, sworn testimony from Trevor Engelson, and forensic scrutiny of Meghan's movements, communications, and relationships during the critical years between 2016 and 2018, transforming rumour into official state investigation. Such a crisis would be unprecedented in modern British history, and for Harry, the psychological toll would be devastating beyond measure, as every joyful memory with Archie, every photograph, every milestone, every proud moment of fatherhood would be shadowed by doubt. The man who gave up everything to protect his family may be forced to confront the possibility that he was protecting a carefully constructed fiction, while Archie himself, utterly innocent, would find his identity and sense of belonging shattered by a scandal he never chose to be part of, leaving damage that no verdict could ever fully undo. The consequences of this scandal could be profound and lasting, and the question now is what happens next, because the legal battle is far from over and Tom Bower's courtroom testimony appears to be only the opening salvo. Sources close to the case suggest he holds further evidence yet to be revealed, documents, private communications, and potentially even sworn testimony from Trevor Engelson himself, placing the Sussex legal team in an impossible bind. Sue for defamation and risk discovery that could legally compel DNA testing, communications records, and testimony under oath, or remain silent and allow the allegations to harden into perceived truth with each passing day. Buckingham Palace faces an equally nightmarish dilemma, as confirming Bower's claims would amount to admitting years of institutional concealment and potentially invalidating Archie's place in the line of succession, while denying them without proof risks triggering the release of evidence that could implicate the palace in deliberate deception. The only clear beneficiaries so far may be the British tabloids, enjoying their most sensational chapter since the death of Princess Diana, while for everyone else, Harry, Meghan, Archie, the royal family, and the monarchy itself, this is an unmitigated disaster. As the world absorbs this explosive testimony, uncomfortable questions refuse to fade. If Bower is lying or exaggerating, why has he not been sued into oblivion, especially given that his testimony was delivered under oath, where falsehoods carry the risk of perjury and prison? Would a journalist of his stature truly gamble his career and freedom on fabrication? If Meghan has nothing to hide, why not immediately authorize a transparent, independently witnessed DNA test that would silence critics forever? And if the palace truly possesses proof locked away that confirms Archie's Windsor bloodline, what possible justification exists for keeping it secret rather than ending the speculation outright? If Harry genuinely believes Archie is his biological son, why does he appear so visibly devastated in courtroom photographs, unable to meet anyone's eyes, carrying a haunted expression that suggests something far deeper than stress? These questions have no comfortable answers, and that is precisely why this story has gripped global attention so completely. What began as a modern fairy tale celebrated across the world may yet conclude as the most consequential deception in contemporary royal history, because whether one believes Bower's claims or views them as a calculated attack on the Sussexes, one truth is undeniable. The questions he has raised will not disappear. As Bower himself said in court, truth belongs to no one, it simply exists, and no amount of public relations strategy, legal maneuvering, or institutional silence can bury it forever. For Harry, the man who believed he was protecting his family from the relentless scrutiny he associates with the death of his mother, the irony is devastating, as his efforts to shield his loved ones may have created the conditions for the most explosive scrutiny imaginable. For Meghan, the actress who became a duchess and then walked away to build a global brand, the stakes could not be higher, because if these claims are validated, everything she has built, her credibility, her image, her future, could collapse overnight. For Archie, an innocent child trapped in the crossfire of adult ambition and power struggles, The future is uncertain and potentially traumatic regardless of the outcome. And for the British monarchy, an institution that has survived wars, scandals, and centuries of upheaval, this may be the defining test of whether it can endure in an age of DNA science and demands for absolute transparency. Because the storm of revelation has only just begun, and before it ends, everything we thought we knew about the world's most famous couple may be exposed as nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion.